race is critical to whether we succeed or we fail moving forward. Having said all of that, this morning we have Michael Konwinski with us. Mr. Konwinski is the candidate for the Libertarian Party. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning.
I am really glad to have you with us. I would like to spend a moment just introducing folks to you, a little bit about your background. Is that okay?
Sure.
All right, let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Konwinski. He's a graduate of the University of Toledo. He's an accounting major there. Spent 30 years as an employee with the City of Toledo, 3 years in water treatment, 5 years in environmental services, 19 years in water distribution, and 3 years in finance. You are no longer with the City of Toledo.
Correct.
You
I
retired recently, but clearly you think that your time there gives you a fairly different perspective than anyone else running right now.
Correct, because I mean I was in there and I saw what happened with the city. I saw how things were run. I controlled expenditures, I prepared budgets, I supervised payroll, so I have a good understanding of how things are done, how people are promoted, how money is spent, the process of getting legislation through, those things of actually running the city as opposed to someone coming in from the outside that maybe doesn't understand that. So I can actually do a lot of the things that past mayors have had to hire somebody to do.
Now, several of the candidates, McNamara, Mike Bell, Anita Lopez, Collins, are all involved in city operations and have been for some time. So what makes you a better candidate than them? What makes your knowledge base?
Well, my knowledge base is that, Collins was a police officer and he's in council, but I don't think that they've actually prepared purchase orders, have looked at expenditures, have actually bid out contracts, have actually been responsible for preparing budgets and actually controlling the cost. About the only person that really has been Ms. Lopez when she was Commissioner of Purchasing and Affirmative Action. So she is probably better qualified than I would say McNamara and Collins.
Then from your perspective, what are people doing wrong? What's not working?
Well, the main problem with the City of Toledo is we don't run it as a business, okay? We run it as a political entity. All the decisions that are made from a certain level are how does that impact me politically, instead of making a good business decision and letting people actually buy stuff and be promoted based on ability. So what we don't do is really control our costs. There's this whole budgeting thing of how much can I spend? And what we really need to do is what do you need to spend it on? If I am just increasing your budget every year by 2 or 3%, you're going to find things to spend the money on.
Well, let's go back to your thought that the city isn't run as a business. I suspect that Mayor Bell would disagree with that, and I would suspect that the city council members would disagree with that. So give me an example of what you're talking about specifically.
Well, we have a lot of overhead. I mean, we have a lot of people that are in positions, management positions, middle management positions, that maybe are not qualified. I mean, what has happened with the strong mayor thing is we've had a tremendous increase in the amount of exempt and middle management employees. So we're not really putting repairmen out in the field, we're putting managers and administrators. And what happens is you'll get someone in there, maybe I promote someone to a commissioner, and they can't do the job. So instead of moving them out or moving them back in, I'll create another position, an administrator, to help them out.
Yeah, I think that your position on that is actually even a little stronger than what you've just said. We found this quote that I'd like to show everyone if we could put that up now. You actually said in an interview with The Blade that whatever ails the City of Toledo can be traced to poor and ineffective middle management, many of whom were promoted due to factors other than their managerial ability. So you're saying that many of the middle managers in the city right now are part of the clog in the wheel. In other words, they're expensive employees, but not adding much.
Right, they're not adding value to the product, if I want to say that. I mean, if you hire...
So give me an example. then?
Okay, I worked in water distribution, and in 2004, when I was at water distribution, we had a commissioner, we had my position, we had a secretary, we had 3 people. Now at water distribution, you have a half a commissioner who is shared with sewer and drainage services. You have 3 people that are being paid as managers. You have an administrator, and you have someone that was doing my job, the administrative specialist. So you have roughly 5.5 people doing what, plus you have a secretary, 6.5 people doing what 3 people used to do.
No change in the structure of that
No,
department?
water is
Water.
Water is still water. They're still repairing the hydrants. They're still repairing that. And if you look at the expenditures that are being made, anytime you see a position that's unfilled, it's normally a repairman position or some lower level. You always have these upper levels that basically take care of themselves. And what I want to do is have people that are qualified to do the job, get a mentoring program in there. We have that problem. We have a lot of people who don't mentor the people below them, so that when they retire, they have to be brought back because there's no one that they feel can take their spot. And so that's why you have a lot of these people retire and brought back, because there's no mentoring. There's this little feeling that I am so important and I don't want to show you how to do the job, because by being so important, they have to bring me back. And so it's like forcing their hand. And I'm just saying is that we can save money and provide a better product and better services for the city if we had qualified people, if we had a mentoring program, if we had the human resources took applications as opposed to shuffling the same people around and around and around. I mean, you can look, and there's a lot of commissioners and managers that have been moved around, and the hard part is determining if they're being moved around because they're good or if they're being moved around because they're bad. We had that disaster in neighborhoods a couple of years ago where they had the bid rigging and the whole big thing, well, that's about the last time you've ever seen anybody fired, and that's basically occurred because we took the chance of losing $9 or $10 million in grants. But still, they moved one of those managers out from neighborhoods and put them into utilities.
So basically you're saying the city is ineffective because it keeps ineffective people. It's ineffective because it's spending money that it doesn't have to spend on those staffing positions, and it's staffed inappropriately.
Right. I'm not saying it's ineffective. I'm just saying that we could be more effective. We can be more cost conscious. We can save people money so that we don't have these budget crises all the time.
Well, now the mayor just found $5 million.
No, he didn't find that $5 million. First off, I believe if how I looked at it is correct, is that in 2010 they allowed to take some of that 3/4% and move it from the capital to the general fund for operating. And I believe the amount for 2012 was $12.9 million. So that is $12.9 million that was brought from what would normally been capital, moved into the general fund, and we spent 8 of that 12.9. Now, if we had been under the general fund funding prior to 2010, we might show a $8 million deficit instead of a $5
million gain. But even having said that, when the mayor was on this show a few weeks ago, he said more than once, as I recall, that he inherited a $48 million deficit when he entered his office. That deficit is no longer there. So you're saying that even with those kinds of changes in the financial position of the city, more can be done.
Yes, I mean, it is better, okay, but it still is not great.
Okay.
I mean,
well, but if it is better, what makes you the best person? What makes you better than those people who are managing that office now?
Well, because I can do a lot of this stuff. I mean, when you look at the mayor's office, he has 3 deputy mayors. Okay, and a lot of the stuff is that our previous mayors have all been unengaged in the actual finance related and managing the thing. I mean, it's one thing to be the cheerleader and to be the front person for that, but you also have to be running the place. When the strong mayor form of government came in 20 years ago, the goal was that we want to have the mayor be also the chief financial officer to actually run the city, to have that mayor accountable instead of the city manager form of government. So that means that we need to have the mayors engaged in the day-to-day operations. We need to have them, you know, looking at those costs, going through, visiting the divisions, finding out what's going on in those divisions, and taking charge. If I have an underperforming employee, I need to find a spot that they can handle or move them out.
You would think that would be the mayor's position to do that?
Well, yeah, ultimately he
You're
is
talking
responsible.
about his senior level people,
No,
and not inside of the department.
Well, with SAP, you have the ability to run the whole show. I mean, the SAP program is a way to manage your finances, is a way to manage the city. And I think the mayor, I don't want to get into the micromanaging like Cardi tried to do and things like that, but we still need to hold people accountable to do the job, and the mayor needs to get more involved. I mean,
I'm gonna stop you right there and ask you to hold that thought, because when we come back, I'd like to talk to you about how you see the scope of the mayor's responsibility around issues like economic development, neighborhood development, crime, those kinds of things, which seem to require a whole nother set of skills. And I just wonder where the time comes in under your paradigm for the mayor to do all of these things. So just hold that thought, okay? We'll be right back. We have to go away for just a moment, but we will be right back.